Dear Watcher, have you ever felt completely alone, and yet not alone at all? I don't tell this story to just anyone. In fact, I've never told it at all, not fully. But lately, the weight of silence has been worse than the memories. Maybe if I say it out loud, it'll finally leave me alone. So here goes. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that for 3 years, I worked the graveyard shift at a now abandoned state prison out in the middle of nowhere. Built in 1883, shut down in the early 2000s. By the time I got there, it was already falling apart. Walls crumbling, paint peeling like dried skin, cold air always seeping in even in the dead of summer. They said it was just for site security. No inmates, no staff, just me, alone, from midnight to 6. And I'll admit, I took the job because it paid better than most. I didn't ask questions. Should've. The first night was uneventful. Boring, even. Just me, my flashlight, an ancient walkie-talkie, and a few rats for company. The silence was thick, but nothing more. Then came night 2. That's when it started. The things that, to this day, I can't explain. And no matter how many times I try to convince myself it was just the wind, or the building settling, or stress, something always whispers back, "You know what you saw." Dear Watcher, I saw something in there, and if you're still with me, I'll tell you everything, every strange sound, every door that opened by itself, every time I felt eyes on my back, in a building with no living souls. Let me take you back to the beginning. But I warn you, once you hear this, you'll never feel alone in the dark again. The second night started like the first. Calm, almost casual. Routine patrol, same cold air, same empty halls, and that smell. You know the one? Damp concrete, rust, mold, and something sweet, like old blood dried into the bricks. You stop noticing it after a while, but not that night. I remember checking the old East Wing. That's where solitary confinement used to be. 5 thick steel doors in a row, all closed, all bolted. I walked past them with my flashlight, just like I did before. Then I heard it. Light echo of soft knocking, distant. 3 knocks, not loud, just deliberate, slow. Coming from the 3rd door on the left. Let that sit in silence. I froze. I told myself, rats. It's always rats. Or maybe the building's settling. I mean, the place was ancient. It groaned all the time. But this wasn't a groan. This was a rhythm, a knocking. I walked up to the door, leaned in. "Hello," I said, just loud enough to echo. Nothing. I waited. Nothing. But as I turned to walk away, 3 more knocks. I nearly dropped my light. Now I'm no ghost hunter. I don't carry around EMF readers or night vision cams. But I've got instincts, the kind you earn working night shifts alone. And something in me was saying, don't open that door. But curiosity is louder than fear sometimes. I unbolted the latch, old thing squealed like a dying animal, and pulled the door open. Empty. No rats, no birds, just a dark, empty cell. Rusted toilet, broken bed frame, cold as a freezer inside. And something else. Something I couldn't put my finger on. The kind of cold that clings to your skin, like fingers dragging down your back. I stepped inside, just once, just a few feet. My light flickered. Not enough to go out. Just enough to say, hey, something's off. And then I heard the breathing. Not mine, slower, wet, like someone with water in their lungs, right behind me. I spun around, light hit the wall, nothing. But the breathing stopped, like it didn't want to be seen. I stepped back out and slammed the door shut, locked it, bolted it, and I didn't go back to that wing the rest of the night. I radioed into base, told them I thought maybe a pipe was leaking or something. They laughed, said I'd get used to the sounds. Quietly. I never did. The weirdest part though, next night I came back, and that cell door, the one I locked, it was open. Dear Watcher, there were no keys missing, no staff entered the site. I checked the logs myself. But that door was wide open, as if it had been waiting. That was when I stopped walking around with my flashlight off. I kept the lights on everywhere I could. I started carrying salt packets in my coat, just in case. You might think that's silly, superstitious, but when you've stood in an old prison and felt something breathing behind you in an empty room, you'll try anything to feel in control. Dear Watcher, have you ever felt hunted? Not chased, not attacked, hunted. Like something out there knows you, better than you know yourself, and it's playing with you. That's what the prison felt like after the third week. The shadow in the hallway. It started small, lights flickering in rooms I wasn't in, doors creaking open when I was on the opposite side of the complex, footsteps echoing 2 levels above, even though I just locked the stairwell doors myself. But one night, it was around 3:11 a.m. I remember because I looked at my watch right after. I saw it. The hallway outside the central watchtower has 2 overhead bulbs, always been dim, but just enough to see if someone's coming. That night, I looked up from my logbook, and there was a figure, standing at the far end. Not walking, just standing. Like it had been watching me for hours. I couldn't make out a face. No light hit the front of it. Just a silhouette, wide shoulders, head tilted slightly like it was curious. I stood up, called out, "Hello? You're not supposed to be here." No response. I reached for my flashlight, clicked it on. In the half second it took to lift it, the figure was gone. Short silence. I didn't imagine it. The light above it had stopped flickering while it stood there, like it didn't want to be seen, but could control what I did see. 2 nights later, the screaming started. Now, I've heard plenty of weird noises in my life, but this was something else. It came from Block C, the North Wing, abandoned since the 90s, completely sealed off. My orders were to never enter it. Doors chained, power shut down years ago. And yet, around 2 a.m., a blood-curdling scream tore through the air. An animal, not feedback. This was human. I grabbed my radio, reported it in. Dispatch told me to stay out of Block C. Protocol. Probably just an echo, they said. I wanted to believe them. Until I heard it again the next night. Same time, same place. And this time, it wasn't just one scream, it was several, one after another. Like someone was being dragged or torn apart. And here's the worst part. It sounded familiar. The voice. It sounded like someone I knew. A week later, I noticed the markings. They started showing up on my patrol log sheets. Thin scratches like someone had used a needle. Circles, lines. Sometimes words in Latin. I looked them up. Words like sacramentum, consecratio, and tenebris. Sacrifice, consecration, darkness. But I was the only one with keys to the filing cabinet. I locked those logs up every shift. No one could have tampered with them. Unless something else had access. A prisoner in the mirror. There was a small office near the old infirmary. Had a mirror over the desk. One night, around 4 a.m., I stopped in there to warm up my coffee. Leaned over the desk, and I swear to God, I saw someone in the mirror. Not my reflection, his, an inmate, dressed in a torn jumpsuit, head shaved, covered in bruises, standing right behind me. I spun around, nothing. Empty room. I looked back in the mirror, also empty. But where I'd just been standing, on the floor, was a bloody handprint. Fresh. Dripping. The feeling of being watched. By now, every shift felt like a dare. I started avoiding certain wings, never looked into any dark room longer than a second. I kept my back against the wall whenever possible. I even brought a cross in my pocket, and I'm not even religious. Because whatever was there, it knew me. Knew I was afraid. And the more I feared it, the stronger it got. I stopped listening to music on duty. I needed to hear every noise, every whisper, every breath. But no matter how alert I was, the feeling never left. I was being watched, not just observed, studied. Dear watcher, no matter how brave you think you are, every man has a breaking point. And I hit mine on a Wednesday night, cold, rain slapping the rusted windows. Everything about the air felt wrong, like the building itself was holding its breath. Power failure. I had just passed the chapel, one of the only rooms with windows that weren't bricked shut. I always stopped there to catch a glimpse of moonlight, just to remind myself there was still a world outside. But that night, as I stood there, the lights went out. Everything goes silent except a soft electrical whine fading out. Boom! Total blackout, not a flicker, no emergency backups, no generator hum, just silence and pitch black nothing. I grabbed my flashlight, clicked it on. Dead. Quiet breath. It had brand new batteries. I checked it that night. I was standing in a hallway older than my father, blind, in the dark, surrounded by stories of men who never left this place, some buried on site, and some who never really left at all. Trapped. I reached for my radio, static. That's when I heard it again. Breathing. Long, wet exhale. Behind me, slow, measured, deep. I turned, saw nothing, but I knew it was there. I could feel it. I started moving toward the control room. It had backup lights, or it should have. But every hallway I turned into was wrong. Doors I knew by heart were suddenly welded shut, corridors twisted. I turned left and ended up back at the chapel like I'd looped in a circle. I wasn't in the prison anymore, not fully. Something had shifted, and it wanted me to feel it. As I moved through the dark, the whispers started. Low layering of indistinct voices, overlapping. Men crying, praying, screaming, whispering my name. Timur, you shouldn't have come back. Voices coming from the walls, the vents, under the floors. One voice kept repeating, "It sees you now," over and over. I reached the old execution wing. No reason to be there. I never patrolled that far, but something had led me to it. The electric chair sat in the center of the room, rusted, covered in dust, except for one thing. The straps were buckled, like someone had just used it. Short silence. I turned to leave. That's when I saw it. A shape at the far end of the room, slowly stepping forward. It wasn't a person, too tall. Shoulders too wide, limbs too long, no face, just darkness where one should be. Like a shadow peeled off the wall and given weight. It moved without sound, but every time it stepped, the walls groaned, like the prison itself was reacting to it. I backed up, fast, but the door behind me slammed shut, hard. I yanked the handle, locked. I turned back. The thing was closer. Its head tilted like it was studying me, the way a cat looks at a dying mouse. It didn't speak with words. It spoke with thoughts, pushed them straight into my head. I saw flashes, prisoners screaming, guards hanging themselves, one man digging his own eyes out in cell 3A. It was showing me what it was, what this place had made it. Not a ghost, not a demon, but something older, made of agony, repetition, and time. A thing fed by suffering, bound to this prison like a parasite. And I was next. I don't remember how I got out. One second I was pounding on the door, crying like a child. The next I was outside in the yard, rain pouring down, floodlights back on, sirens blaring. The supervisor found me an hour later, curled up against the wall, shaking, covered in dust and blood. They ran tests, said I had a psychotic break. Stress-induced hallucination. That's what the report says. But my boots were soaked, and my patrol logs, covered in the same ancient symbols from before, etched in blood. I never went back. I quit that night. burned my uniform, never looked over my shoulder again. But sometimes, around 3:11 a.m., I wake up to the sound of 3 slow knocks on my bedroom wall. Same pattern, same rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. Dear watcher, I'm not telling you this story for sympathy. I'm telling you because someone has to remember. Places like that prison, they don't die when they shut the gates. They rot from the inside out. And sometimes, they grow teeth. They said I imagined it, that I cracked under pressure. And maybe I did. Maybe you'd have too. But here's what I know. 2 weeks after I quit, the new guy, fresh out of training, vanished on his 3rd night. Left behind a half-written log entry and a drawing on the wall. A tall figure, no face, long arms reaching through the bars of cell 3A. 3 months later, the prison was officially condemned. The state shut it down permanently. Too many unexplained incidents. But the structure still stands. Silent. Watching. I tried to move on. Different job, different town. But it follows. Little things. Lights flickering at 3:11. Dead birds outside my door. Whispers when I'm alone. My dog won't sleep in the same room as me. I've been marked, branded by that place, like it tagged me as one of its own. And I don't think I'm the only one. A message for you, dear watcher. There's a reason I'm telling you this, a reason you've made it this far. Maybe you felt it too. That pull, that strange chill at night when you're alone, that sense that something is watching you. Maybe you've passed by an old building and felt your skin crawl for no reason, or you've had a dream about a place you've never been. But somehow no. Not everything in this world plays by our rules. Some places are doors. And some doors should never be opened. The final knock. Every year on the same night, the night everything happened, I sit in silence. No lights, no phone, no distractions. I wait, and without fail, at exactly 3:11. Knock, knock, knock. It comes. Not at the front door, not at the window, always from inside the house. Always from the same wall. And each time, the knocks get a little bit closer to my bedroom. Dear watcher, if you ever feel like something's following you or watching you when you're alone, it probably is. If you ever hear 3 knocks, don't answer. And whatever you do, never go near cell 3A. It sees you now. At Dark Files, we uncover these creepy real-life stories and cases. Subscribe for more such eerie videos.